willkommen zusammen. Ich freue
Welcome,
mich, dass
everybody.
Sie es alle geschafft haben zum
I'm
letzten Vortrag der
happy to
heutigen
see
Reihe,
you
dass Sie
made it to
durchgehalten
this
haben an diesem
last
heutigen
presentation of
Messetag,
today,
der
that you
wahrscheinlich
made
für
it
Sie alle
till
ganz lang
here on
war.
this
Und
first
ich
day of the
möchte Sie heute mitnehmen
trade
auf
show,
eine
which was a
Reise
long day for
der
everybody, I'm
Verwandlung
sure.
von
And
Puder zu
today I'd like
Creme.
to take you on a journey
Zunächst ein paar Worte zu
of
meiner
an
Person.
evolution
Mein
from
Name ist
powder to
Dr. Sandra
cream.
Christian. Ich bin
Uh,
promovierte
Let me
Chemikerin
introduce myself
und
first. I'm
arbeite in
Dr.
der
Sandra
Firma
Christian.
GloryActives für die
I'm a
Bereiche Business
chemist, graduate
Development
chemist,
und
and I work for
Scientific Management.
GloryActives in
Sie sehen
scientific
hier auf den
development and business
Folien
development.
eigentlich zwei
So on
Produkte,
the
muss man
slides, you actually see
fairerweise
two
sagen. Wir
products.
sprechen über ein Puder, was sich in eine
We
Creme
talk
verwandelt.
about a powder
Das
that
ist der
turns into a
Träger
cream,
für das Produkt, was
which
Sie auf
is the
der rechten Seite
carrier for
sehen.
the product you
Das ist
can
ein
see on
ganz
the
besonderer
right,
Wirkstoff, den wir
which is
dieses
a
Jahr neu
very
launchen werden.
particular active ingredient which we're going to
nennt sich der Wirkstoff,
launch, which is
der für
called GloryDermal
umfassenden
Guard.
Hautschutz steht.
And this
Beide
stands for
Konzepte
comprehensive
bzw. beide
skin
Produkte
protection.
haben wir
Both
kombiniert.
concepts or
Das
both
heißt,
products were
ich möchte Ihnen
combined.
heute ein Produkt
So
vorstellen,
today
ein
I would like
Wow-Produkt
to
mit einem
present a wow
besonderen
product to you
Applikationsform,
with a
was gleichzeitig
special form of
umfassenden Schutz für
application
die
which
Haut
at the
bietet.
same time provides comprehensive
Bevor ich
protection for your
jetzt in die
skin.
Details der
So
Produkte
before I go
eingehe,
into
möchte ich noch ein
detail,
bisschen unsere
I
Firma
would like to
vorstellen,
present
weil
our
vielleicht ist Ihnen die
company.
Firma GloryActives
Maybe
ein
you
Begriff, aber
know
Sie
about
können es nicht ganz
GloryActive, but maybe
einordnen,
you
weil wir jetzt
don't, or
hier auch auf
maybe
der
you
Messe mit
don't
der
really
Firma
know where to
Technature
place them
vertreten
because
sind. Also die
Technature is
Firma
representing us
GloryActives
at
ist
this
der
fair.
deutsche
So
Distributeur
GloryActive is the
der Firma
German
Technature,
distributor of
von denen
Technature.
wir auch das Wow-Produkt, das
And
Evolutionary Powder
we
vorstellen.
got the
Wir
wow product, the
selber
evolutionary
sind
powder from them.
Spezialisten im Bereich
We are
der
specialists
Wirkstoffe,
in
sowohl
active
Wirkstoffdistribution
ingredients,
als
both
aber auch
in ingredient
eigene
distribution
Wirkstoffe, die wir in
and in the
eigenen
production of our own
Forschungsprojekten
ingredients, which
auch
we
herleiten und dann eben
develop
für die
and
Kosmetikindustrie
derive in our
stellen.
own research
Sie
projects
sehen hier
and
auch
then
an dem
provide them to
Chart, das
others.
Thema
So on the
Wirkstoff liegt uns
chart,
wirklich
on
am
the quote, you
Herzen.
can see that we
Wir
really
sehen
care
uns
about
als
ingredients. We
Wirkstoffexperten
see
und das zu
ourselves
100%.
as experts for active
Warum
ingredients
haben wir jetzt die Partnerschaft mit
and
Technature? Das ist in
100%.
dem Sinne
So why are we
eine
partnered with
erst vielleicht
Technature?
widersprüchliche Sache, weil die
This
Produkte von
may be a bit of a
Technature sind
contradiction
natürlich
because,
Fertigprodukte,
of course, the
die aus einer
Technature
Hand
products
im
are
Private
ready-made
Label Bereich
products in a
entwickelt
private
werden
label
und
area
der Kosmetik dann
from
zur
a
Verfügung
one-stop
gestellt
shop
werden.
and are then
Aber wir
provided
können
to
immer
the
wieder
cosmetic world.
wunderbare Synergien und
But we
Kombinationen
can
eben mit den Wirkstoffen, auch mit unserem
create
Wissen aus diesem
synergies
Bereich
and with our
kombinieren.
expertise in
Und so
that
ist auch
area
das
and
Evolutionary
make
Powder
combinations, and
entstanden.
that's how the evolutionary
Ein
powder came to
Zitat,
be.
was für unsere
A quote
Firmenphilosophie steht,
which stands for our
stammt von
company
unserem Firmengründer,
philosophy
dem Herrn
is this
Dr.
quote
Volker
by
Krug,
Dr. Volker
dass er
Krug, the
gesagt
founder
hat
of our
und wir
company.
dann auch repräsentieren,
He
dass wir
said,
die
and
Wirkstoffe zu
we
100%
represent,
verstehen
that
müssen,
we need to
um sie mit
understand
dem
the active
bestmöglichen
ingredients
Nutzen verkaufen zu können.
completely in
Das heißt,
order
es
to
ist der
sell them with the
bestmöglichste
highest
Nutzen,
benefit.
vor allen
So
Dingen für
the
Sie,
best
dass
possible
Sie auch
benefit
die
for
Wirkstoffe
you,
verstehen,
so
die
you
manchmal
can
auch nicht
understand the
ganz so
active
einfach sind
ingredients, which
in
are
ihrem
sometimes
Hintergrund, in
not
der
that
Forschung, die
easy
dahinter steht.
in your background, in the
Dafür stehen
research
wir,
behind it.
dass
That's what
wir
we stand
Sie
for,
mit den Wirkstoffen
that
beraten.
we
Das heißt, wir
can
verkaufen nicht einfach
consult
nur Produkte, sondern wir
with
beraten
you
Sie auch in der
on
Konzeptionierung
the
und
active
begleiten Sie auch
ingredients.
in Ihrem
We provide consulting services
Produktentwicklungskonzept.
in the
Das heißt, wir sehen uns
conceptionizing
nicht nur als reine
process.
Verkäufer, nicht nur als
We don't see
Distributeure,
ourselves
sondern wir
as
sehen uns
sellers
wirklich
and
als Link
distributors. We
zwischen
really
dem
see ourselves
Wirkstoff
as the
und dem
link
Kunden. Also
between
als
the
Link
active
zwischen
ingredient and the
unseren
customer.
Lieferanten, der
So the links
Wirkstoffe
between our
und Ihnen.
suppliers, the ingredients, and you.
Ein paar Eckdaten zu der Firma. Ich will
So,
Sie da nicht
few
mit
key
den
facts
Details
about the
jetzt
company.
langweilen.
I don't want to bore you with
Gründungsdatum ist
details.
2016.
We were
Wir sind
founded in
allerdings schon sehr lange
2016,
in der Industrie,
but
haben mit
we
den
have been
Mitarbeitern eine
around
über
for a long
20-jährige
time.
Expertise in verschiedenen
We
Bereichen.
have more than
Das ist
20
sowohl
years of
die Entwicklung,
expertise in
Forschung und
many areas,
Entwicklung,
which is development,
als aber
research
auch
and
die Bereiche
development, and
Regulatory
also
Affairs
regulatory affairs
und
and
auch Logistik,
logistics too,
Produktion und ganz stark
production,
natürlich auch unsere
and of
naturwissenschaftliche
course our
Expertise.
scientific
Gerade
expertise,
eben auch durch unseren Firmengründer Dr. Volker Krug
particularly
und
due
meine
to
Person.
our
Wir sind beide
founder, Dr.
Chemiker.
Volker Krug,
Das
and
heißt, wir
myself. We're
verbinden
both
dann auch
chemists.
diese
So
Disziplinen,
we are
die
connecting
Wissenschaft,
these
die Studien, die
disciplines,
dahinter
the
stehen und die
science, the
Übertragung
studies
ins
behind
Kosmetische.
that, and the translation
Die
into
Firma
a
sitzt
cosmetic
in
product.
Güster, das ist in der Nähe
So
von
the
Hamburg, also
company
im
is
Norden von
headquartered in
Deutschland.
Güster, which is close
Und
to
unsere
Hamburg
Produkte
in the north of
vertreiben wir
Germany,
für den
and we
deutschen Markt,
distribute and sell our
einzelne
products for
Produkte
the
auch
German
für
market
Österreich.
and individual products also for
Ansonsten, wie ich es
Austria.
schon angesprochen habe, wir leben
As I
die
mentioned
perfekte
before,
Symbiose dann
we
eben
live
auch
the
mit den
perfect
Produkten von
symbiosis
Technature,
between
wo wir
with
unsere
the products of
Erfahrung und unsere
Technature,
Wirkstoffe
with
einbringen
our
und so
expertise, our
gesehen das Ganze
experience,
dann
our
wieder sich in eine
ingredients, ingredients,
Kreis dann für
and
Sie
this
schließt. Das heißt, Sie kriegen
will come
Full
full
Service von der
circle. So you get
Produktseite
full
und von
service
uns die
from the
entsprechende
product side
Beratung.
and the consultation from us. So this is a short overview for you, the partners we work with, our suppliers. They're all European. So we have a very, quote, small, unquote, portfolio of suppliers which we work with. But the reason is that they have to understand our ingredients. So we don't just offer you a huge range of suppliers, and we also don't want our products to cannibalize each other in the portfolios, which is why we selected those suppliers carefully. So Technature is the supplier who accompanies us here today, and GloryActives is strictly speaking not a supplier. This is our own product range where we develop our own ingredients and provide them. We made particularly sure that with few partners we can still cover a broad spectrum, so both conventional and natural cosmetics. So GloryActives, the product range, which you can see here, received several awards, or rather our research behind it, our own scientific project, received the Innovative Through Research seal. It's very important to us, not just because we have this kind of background, but because it takes innovation and research and the science behind it for cosmetics, particularly cosmetics, which is under attack so often. So it's very important to us that we offer sound ingredients and sound consultation services. So now let's talk about what you're here for. We'll talk about a powder which turns into a cream. Oh, well, actually, it is a cream that is already contained in that powder. We call it a wow product. So you may know the powder to cream concept. However, you always have to use water or some other components to emulsify that. And now we've created a product where the cream is actually contained in the powder, but the powder is still very fine, very light, and you can't see the cream at first glance. So those of you who went to the spotlight area has seen it, because we spread out the powder so you don't see the cream, but you feel it on your skin afterwards. So what's behind that? So first of all, we have a new method of administration and a completely new sensorial experience. Some customers tried it at our booth. So with the powder, you actually expect something dry, and it's not dry at all. So you really feel that you're applying a cream. So what we have is the moisturizing properties, but also matifying properties, which you in turn expect from a powder. Another beautiful thing is that this formulation is a platform, so it can be adapted, it can be customized to your wishes, to your clients' wishes, and thus it can be used as a vehicle for maybe a marketing concept or just to offer a product in a different way. Technature has had this idea for a long time, but the special thing about this product, and the reason why it took 5 years to get to this point today, to make it presentable, was production. So it was very difficult to implement this in production, and we managed to do that now. So we can now produce it on an industrial scale in order to provide you with this vehicle platform, and you can adapt the formula. So as I mentioned before, as I hinted before, it's like cream, you know, like you all know a water emulsion, and there's a water phase. And this water phase is included in this fine powder at about 65%. And that's what you feel when you spread it on your skin, that this fresh effect with this water phase is quickly released for a short time, but is not what remains as a moist phase when you describe it, but it is absorbed immediately. So you could actually talk about it melting into the skin. And that is the form of application that we have not seen so far on the market. So we're presenting this to you as a new product, as a wow product, which you can then further use in your own concepts. So I have a video. I hope it works. I hope it will play. Because I talked a lot, but here you can see for yourself. Also feel free to visit us at our booth. We have samples, so this is what it looks like. This was filmed at In Cosmetics. Our colleague is applying a bit of that powder, and you can see as she spreads it, it disappears into the skin directly. And there's not the cream, the classical cream. There's no emulsion forming, but afterwards you have the exact same skin feel that you would have after a cream has been absorbed. On the right you can see, slightly zoomed in, the bottle that our colleague used to apply the powder, and you can see on the rim that it's very finely coated. When you visit us at our booth, you can try it for yourself and experience the lightness of this product. So now let's talk about the second component I would like to present, which is the ingredient in this product. This is GloryActives Guard. You may remember from the first few slides, it's the product range that we are supplying with our own ingredients from our own research. And this ingredient was chosen specifically in combination with the powder because this ingredient stands for comprehensive skin protection. So it's a very broad topic. Skin protection is independent of age or the aging process, or it should be. So it is not an anti-aging ingredient. We just talk about skin protection. We're talking about a product which is easy to apply, which conveys a sense of lightness, and this allows us to take this complex topic of protection, where you have to talk about negative effects, and combine it into a product which gives you this lightness, because we want our consumers to enjoy using the products. So this ingredient as such is a bit more complex. So that's why we are building a bridge to a simple product once again. Because we have to make sure, of course, because we know that the skin is subjected to many factors every day which speed up the aging process or trigger it in the first place. So it's been communicated in commercials, etc. I'm sure you know that UV radiation is a decisive factor in these processes. Literature assumes, well, I think 80%, it's up to 90% impact of UV radiation on aging processes, or visible, or making aging processes visible. So when we talk about skin, UV radiation is a very important topic, and it was the basis for the development of our ingredient. At the same time, there's another topic that's not separate, not isolated, which is free radicals. You all know about those. So these are terms which the consumers themselves know. There's also scientific evidence of these factors being factors which negatively impact skin aging processes. So we took these two components for GloryActives Guard and attuned it to these two components. So we said that on the one hand we have the UV radiation. What does it do? Well, it produces free radicals, of course, but if you think it through all the way to the end, what we end up is with DNA damage. That is a claim we don't use in cosmetics. It's also a bit difficult to delineate, but at the end of the day we have DNA damage through UV radiation. I'll talk about the mechanisms a bit later. And this damage must be repaired. So we are not talking sun protection or UV filters. We're talking ingredients in order to counteract this damage. So this ingredient could, of course, be used in sun protection products. On the other hand, we have the free radicals, which are characterized by a triggering oxidization processes in the skin, and this leads to wrinkling and uneven skin. And these processes, cell oxidation, leads to the skin aging on the one hand, but also leaving this healthy state that we would like to preserve. So when we worked out this concept, it was relatively easy to say, okay, we have two components which let the skin age. So these are the two factors we have to take into account. So on the one hand, we have to repair the DNA, and on the other hand, we have to neutralize the free radicals. So two large topics. So it's not surprising that we chose two components for this ingredient. I'll explain on the next slide. So first of all, we asked ourselves, two components, is that not too complex? How do we best go about that? And so we drew inspiration from nature, because nature has the most effective concepts for these kinds of questions. And of course, free radicals and UV radiation are natural components as such. They've been with us for millions of years. And that is why we took a look around nature and asked ourselves, what can we take from nature and translate into our work? What mechanisms are effective? And the great thing was that we found one mechanism of action for two problems, which is enzymes. So enzymes are very important messenger substances in the body, components which regulate physiological processes and are in charge of many metabolistic processes. And that is what we used, because enzymes don't just have the physiological background and are therefore important. They also have the trick up their sleeves that they don't self-deplete when they take effect. So that is a clear distinction from other substances, because all substances are depleted at some point. You may have seen this in antioxidants, for instance, so they take effect, but then at some point they are depleted once they have taken effect. But we want comprehensive skin protection, so we want long-term effects. And that is what took us to enzymes. And of course, the marketing measures can then target sustainability, etc., because enzymes are basically the conductors of our life. So at first I said we have two topics and two components with one thing in common, which is enzymes. So these are the individual components. I like to go into a bit more detail. So we have UV damage. So we need to repair the DNA. And we found this in the repair enzyme photolyase, which can be one from microalgae from nature. And on the other hand, we have an antioxidant enzyme, which is a new term we coined. You know about antioxidants, but we're talking about an antioxidant enzyme which neutralizes free radicals. And it's a synthetic component, an iron chelating peptide. So the best from both worlds, modeled after nature. So we've encapsulated both components in liposomes to improve skin penetration. So we really included all the knowledge from cosmetics into this concept, a highly potent ingredient. I also said I'd like to take you on a journey through the mechanism of action, what's actually happening in our DNA, and what are the problems that you have to repair afterwards. So how does that work? So we have the DNA double helix that you all know. This is UV radiation, and this is what happens when you look at this area marked in red. And you can see that you have neighboring or opposite base pairings in this helix, which have a certain connection, which is symbolized by the dotted lines. And these connections of these neighboring base pairings are broken up by the UV radiation. This is intended by nature for these connections to be unstable, because when DNA is producing proteins, etc., in the body, they need to be open in order to kick off these replication processes. So this is a very fragile point, and UV radiation can attack that point. And that wouldn't be a problem at all unless the following happens. So the base pairs on one strand connect to each other. And that's not supposed to happen because we want them to connect to the partner's opposite. So this is this famous DNA construction error, the damage, which we call CPD, cyclobutane pyrimidine dimer. Maybe you've heard about it at some point. So the CPDs are DNA construction errors. Now we have mechanisms in our body which can repair all that, because otherwise we wouldn't last another hour. So we have repair enzymes in our own body. One is exonuclease, which then simply cuts this whole construction error out of the DNA strand. And there are other enzymes which repair the strand, meaning that they synthesize a new strand and add it and put it on. So it's like when you craft something, you take something out, you resynthesize in another step, and then you add it in. So these two steps are exactly the point, because we do have enzymes here, but you need two steps. So this is effective, but it can still be improved. And that is what photolyase does. Because what it does is that it skips this cutting out step, which is why I've graded out on the slide a bit. And it, from the construction error, it directly targets the repaired DNA. Because what it does is directly split this wrong connection, split the CPD. So the base pairs end up combining with their opposite counterparts. So this is a much more efficient, much faster process, which comes from nature, from microalgae, which we can use in cosmetics to support our own intrinsic mechanisms in our own bodies. So we're not interfering, we're supporting the natural mechanisms, as I said, modeled on nature, on natural processes happening in microalgae, which have been around much longer on this earth than we have, and enduring much harder conditions years ago when UV radiation was much different, with an atmosphere which filters out UV radiation nowadays. So these microalgae had to find ways to protect themselves, find mechanisms, and these mechanisms have remained, and we can use them for cosmetics. So in order to put this in a nutshell, we have a UV damaged DNA with CPDs, and we want to get to a repaired DNA. So the construction error is there, and there the check mark, that's our goal. Our own mechanism uses this interim step, that the construction error is cut out. So it is a detour, it's a longer process, it takes longer. And photolyase just offers a quicker repair, an accelerated process without any interim steps, that we can repair the DNA directly. And that is precisely the point. So I got this from literature. It's 10 to 100 times faster than the body's own way, and that is what we need when we talk about UV damage. Sun protection is very well advanced in that regard. Others are not. So I see people with super red skin all the time on holidays because they don't like to use sunscreen or they only use it once. So UV protection through UV filters, that is one part. That's the one side of the coin. But we also have to make sure that if UV damage happens, in spite of that, we can repair it quickly. And that is what this ingredient from the microalgae does for us, and it's exactly the right partner. I also said that enzymes have the great advantage that they don't deplete. The same is true here. Photolyase, this repair enzyme, does not deplete. So it's not just quick, it can carry out many repair cycles, many repair operations without depleting itself. So this non-depletion will come up a few times in this presentation because was the key for us why we use these enzymes. So now the second part, the antioxidant enzyme. So first was DNA repair, now we have antioxidants, so we're talking free radicals now. Free radicals, you all know these. They're often abbreviated as ROS, reactive oxygen species. They are everywhere, they're in our own bodies, they're produced by UV radiation, by environmental conditions. So just like the sun, they're just everywhere. And as I said, we went back to the concept of enzymes. And again, there's a lot in nature, but it's not easily translated into cosmetics. So that is why we created the first synthetic antioxidant enzyme. And that's why we said we give it a proper name, something that neutralizes the free radicals, but because it's an enzyme that doesn't deplete, it can operate across a lot of cycles. So it's not just neutralization, it is actually long-term protection against radicals. So to make sure you believe this, or you can really see the background, how does this work with these various cycles? So let me take you on an excursion on the mechanism of action of antioxidants and also derive why this antioxidant enzyme is so different. So how do free radicals take effect without antioxidants? So we kept it really easy. We don't want to make this ridiculous. We just want to break it down because it's very complicated indeed. So we have molecules which are part of our cells, and all of these molecules, this is a chemically balanced state. That's where nature wants to get. These molecules have paired electrons. Free radicals do not have that. You can see this flash up. Free radicals have no paired electrons, so they have electron gaps and individual electrons which try to counterbalance that state, counteract that state. They're trying to achieve the state of having paired electrons. So you can imagine what happens. They meet. Now we have a green free electron which is flashing. And of course, this comes from our molecule. This was taken from our skin. So this molecule now no longer has paired electrons. It was damaged, and that is what free radicals do in our bodies, which is why we call them damaging, because that is what's behind it. Now, in cosmetics, we have antioxidants, which are supposed to prevent just that. So again, let's assume our molecule with a paired electrons, then the free radical comes, and then we have the antioxidant between that. So they have electrons as well. They are blue, and they're paired, but in a way they're flexible. So that means that these electrons can be easily passed on. This is what it looks like. The free radical is neutralized, has a blue electron now from the antioxidant. So the antioxidant has a gap there, but that's not so bad. I'll tell you why in a minute. And the molecule still has its paired electrons and was not damaged. So why is this not a problem? Because, again, we have an unpaired electron here. Well, antioxidants have a structure that allows them to have this suboptimum structure and counterbalance it, because they intrinsically have the option to stabilize this state and to withstand the fact that there is a gap. So this antioxidant is not as happy as on the left, where it's still a big grin on the emoji face. It's still okay. But again, it is depleted. So let's look at the limits of common antioxidants. Again, we have the molecule, the same starting point. Then we have a depleted antioxidant, and where we have the flashing arrow, there's a gap. So if another free radical comes, because we don't have just one free radical, there's more. So when another free radical encounters the molecule, we have the same thing as we had before. We have the free radical taking away the electrons from the molecules, so a component of our skin. Damage occurs, and the depleted antioxidant is on the sidelines, and it is unable to do anything. There's nothing it can do. So there's no change to the state we had without antioxidants. And that is where our antioxidant enzyme enters into the play. So again, we have the molecule that needs to be protected. We have free radicals, but not just one, it's a lot of them. And then we have our antioxidant enzyme, which is structured the same way as the other antioxidants, with its flexible free electrons. Now here you can see the golden electron, which has been taken from the antioxidant enzyme. The radical is neutralized. The antioxidant enzyme has this gap again, but now the clue, or the special mechanism of action, it self-regenerates. This means that the antioxidant enzyme, because it does not deplete, self-regenerates and turns itself into that state with 2 electrons, or builds these up again. And then we have a cycle, which means that many free radicals targeting the molecule and encountering this molecule can be neutralized. And for the first time, we reach a situation where the skin molecule remains unaffected and is not damaged. So it's like a protective coat that lasts for a long time. And that is the background, so you can understand why we make a distinction there and why we are talking about long-term protection here. So if you would like to know a little bit more about the chemistry, of course, this is broken down. We have the peroxidase cycle. So peroxidase is another enzyme which uses hydrogen peroxide as a source of free radicals and neutralizes it. And you can see the chemical abbreviation Fe for iron, ferrum. It switches between 2 oxidation stages, 3 and 4. So chemically, it is oxidation and reduction, and that is exactly the cycle running in the background. And it's easy to understand, easy to explain, but it's still highly complex. And that's why we chose to use these emoji, so you just know where we're going. Well, to put it lightly, just make sure everybody's happy at the end. Because when you look at this slide, you only have smiley faces, only happy faces, and that's where we want to get. So in summary, we have 2 components: an enzymatic mechanism of action, a repair enzyme, and an antioxidant enzyme. 2 components taking effect in a cyclic manner, which don't deplete and actually create synergies. They can support each other. So if you look only at photolyasis as an enzyme, which can also be damaged by free radicals, then of course the antioxidant enzyme provides you another layer of protection for the repair enzyme for photolyasis. So in 2 studies, it's 2 slides which are very short. Let's just look at these aspects, these 2 components. So on the one hand, we have DNA repair, so CPD repair, CPDs that must be reduced. And we did not conduct an in vivo study. We did not conduct studies on humans, but we used a 3D human skin model. So this is somewhere between ex vivo and in vivo, but it's very representative, and we were able to stress it because you don't want to bombard a human person with UV radiation. So the gray bar shows you the untreated sample, the one that was treated with UV radiation, so positive control, that CPDs were created in the skin through UV radiation. So we put the stress to 100, a maximum, and then the test with GloryDermal Guard, which is the green bar, and you can see a reduction of CPDs by 24% after 24 hours. So this is a value which is not just significant, but in such a short period of time is so representative for this quick and efficient mechanism of action. Same system for the long-term protection against radicals. Again, a full thickness human skin model, and it was really stressful for the model now, because for 1 hour it was treated with hydrogen peroxide, which is a really tough chemical treatment in order to create as many free radicals as possible and put the skin under maximum stress. We didn't just do this once in order to create the radicals in the first place, and we did this a second time after 48 hours. So one measurement was taken after 24, one after 48 hours, and we added fresh hydrogen peroxide, so really increased the stress once again. And you can see that after 24 hours already 76% of the free radicals could be reduced, and after 48 hours, well, the number is a bit higher, but significance is the same region. So they were reduced in the long term. And for us, this is proof of concept that we actually have something in our hands, something that, well, protects both components very effectively, and that is why we talk about comprehensive skin protection, a holistic concept, because otherwise we would not use these terms. So let me just quickly summarize it. Our evolutionary powder with GloryDermal Guard. We have the concept of protective beauty, so to speak. Protective beauty is actually sums it up pretty well. With these two products, we have the perfect symbiosis, because, as I was saying, protection and lightness. Because protection must be lived, the product must be applied, so the formulation must be chosen in a way that the customer actually enjoys it. So we have a simple, fine, easy-to-use powder with a wow effect. So it is a product which will do very well on social media, for instance, in social media ads. And we have this reliable skin protection on the other hand, which is a bit more difficult to explain, as you've seen, but is carried really well by this product model. And at the end, because you can't stress this often enough, the long-term effect, the synergy effects of these two very important components, DNA protection and free radicals, which lasts over a long period of time. Thank you very much for your attention. We're also at the exhibition with Technature, our partner in Hall 3's booth A05. Feel free to pay us a visit. We have samples. And thank you very much for your attention.